Morning all. So Gelfand's broken through. He beats Gata Kamsky, the US champion, and it was this key game, I believe. If Kamsky had taken his opportunity, which there was in this game, it might have been a different story. Kamsky might have gone through. So they're about the same FIDE rating, just 1 point between them at the moment. Kamsky's 2732 and Gelfand 2733. Okay, so E4 from Gata Kamsky, and Boris Gelfand, he plays the Sicilian defence. Now, if you're a real fan of the Sicilian defence, and believe it or not, there was a time before the French defence that I was a great fan of, first of all, the Sicilian Scheveningen, and then the Sveshnikov variation. There's a Facebook page I've set up just recently, only a few days ago, and already it's got about 1,300 fans. It's facebook.com/Sicilian Defence. So pretty easy to remember. At the moment, like as I say, about 1,300. It's really cool, I think, and it's just exciting for me. You know, it does represent the idea of creating imbalances and fighting. You know, counter-attacking. You know, even as black. The French defence is like by contrast, it's like you know, a shock absorber, especially the advanced variation. I really like the French defence for quite different reasons now, and it's like more strategic for me. But I really did enjoy also playing the Sicilian. You know, when I was younger, especially. So okay, so Gelfand, he's sticking with the Sicilian, and actually we see the main line, which is good stuff. If you're in the UK playing a UK tournament, there's all sorts of stuff. That's something which is off-putting, like, you know, C3 Sicilians, or you know, all sorts of avoidances. The C3 is the most popular actually avoidance of the mainline Sicilian. But okay, here we've got mainline, and after CD knight takes D4, you know, this could be the Sveshnikov with knight F6. Or it could be Kalashnikov with E5. Actually, this little subtlety, it was emphasised to me on Chess World. Actually, I was playing E5, and I realised, hold on a sec, this is not right, because knight B5 and then bishop C4 was always pretty strong. I was wondering, what was I doing wrong? Actually, the right move here for Sveshnikov is knight F6 to encourage knight C3. But there's a different move played here anyway from Boris. He played actually Queen B6. And what do we make of this move, actually? What does it do? I know it does actually score well. I think there was an Ivichuk game I also video annotated in the past. It actually drives the knight to a seemingly passive square. It's awkward to defend the knight, you know, because of B2. Let's actually put this through Houdini, this Queen B6. In this position, Queen B6, knight B3 is given as the right move. So anything else is a bit poxy. You know, C3, that's a bit poxy, blocking C3. You know, like knight F6 here, and black's fine. Alright, that was just out of interest. So Queen B6. So the knight gets driven back to a slightly passive square, where it might be, you might think it might be harassed with A5, but that's not the case actually in this game. Knight F6, knight C3, and now E6. So black is aiming actually for the Scheveningen structure with E6 and D5, and you might think, hold on a sec, there's a downside to this queen being on B6, that the, you know, A6 and B5 plan is going to take an extra move. That's true as well, but what does white actually play here? He doesn't really want to like play bishop E3. I'm not sure that's a great move. Maybe just Queen C7, and is the knight really going to come back to D4 after that? White actually plays bishop D3, and after bishop E7, now both sides castle. And then we see A4. So any intentions for black to play A6, B5 are kind of ruled out at this point. D6, and now bishop E3, hitting the queen, Queen C7. Offering white actually the options on knight B5, but there's always Queen B8, so it's not as not really that dangerous here. And actually, Boris plays B6 now. He just wants his bishop on the diagonal without bothering with A6. Also, you know, A6, there's A5 sealing actually this b6 square, because this knight actually is serving a useful purpose here, helping mark indirectly the b6 square. Okay, so that's to be avoided as well. So b6, it also supports knight a5 as well, just in case, you know, black doesn't mind the double pawns in exchange for, like, to emphasize the c-file pressure. So queen f3, so there might be some threats on the horizon. So bishop b7, parrying that diagonal, naturally developing the bishop. Now knight b5. Is it really that dangerous here? What was actually white's point here? Really, I think the idea here is to say to black he's not really going to get much play on the c5. He plays now c3, so he's got a better grip on d4. He's blocked the c-file with a pawn, but this knight's tumbling back. That's a bit of a downside, but it's not that much of a downside actually. However, black has nice central play now. He first plays e5, which locks down this bishop, so there isn't, you know, any devastation later with e5 and h7 being a problem. And now after f5, black is able to first kick the knight and then liberate now in the center with this very, very nice move. So black's at least equalized here with d5, or even slightly better. Now the point is, and when I was covering this game last night I missed the point actually. The point's quite simple actually. If d takes, it's not like a knight move or something to try and get this pawn back. There's a killer blow here actually. The killer blow, I hope you can see it if I give you 5 seconds. The killer blow would be just e4. So if takes, then knight e5. I'm winning a piece actually, because the knight's been supported here. There's no counterattack on the knight. The bishop's dropping off next move. So that's to be avoided. E takes d5. So in fact, knight d2 was played. And now we see an interesting move, queen d8, which I guess the idea is to support d4 to gain a bit of space in the centre at some point. And in fact, there's evidence for that now. d4. Okay, but it does come at a downside. This c4 is a slight vulnerability, and if the bishop's there, f7 is a slight vulnerability. And maybe, you know, these are key points. The downside of this d4 move, this diagonal, is a problem. But it wasn't fully exploited, it seems, in this game. So rook e8, now knight b3. So there's potentially a big problem with d4. If white can arrange like pressure, you would think d4 might be a problem. But actually, knight d7 is pretty calm about it. So there's probably a tactical reason, most certainly a tactical reason why white cannot try and win d4 here. Let's just check that out. So c takes d4. Knight takes d4, knight takes, e takes. Let's say white tries to win the pawn. Okay, so here, temporarily a pawn down, but knight c5 hits the knight, hits the bishop, and also this bishop. Now if bishop takes c5, bishop c5, black's got the two bishops, and look at e4, and there's two very tasty moves here. Queen h4 or queen d4, and both give actually black the advantage. Queen h4. So what about this e4 pawn? Let's try and protect it with rook e1 as an example. Bishop d6, bang. Big problems on the king side. Black's actually massively winning this. So say h3, then there's queen g3 with a hack attack. What would white do here? If e5, and he's dropping the e5, bishop e5, and white would have to sack the queen. So that's a bad idea to try and win that d4 pawn. Seemingly it looks vulnerable, but actually if it's going to come at the expense of getting mated, it's not a good idea. So that's just the variation. So knight d7, clever little move that, with the idea of knight c5, facilitated by that b6 pawn. So king h1, and now an interesting move actually. Because this knight, you wouldn't say it's the best piece in white's position. It has to take time to come back, and now it hasn't even got e3 because of the d4 pawn. But on the other hand, when it comes to c2, maybe taking on d4 becomes a real option. So actually, Boris actually played this kind of controversial looking move, bishop takes a3. According to Houdini, white gets the advantage there, and a better move actually would have been knight c5. So what's happening here, say, well, if knight c2, there's knight takes b3. If knight takes here, then b takes c5. Giving up the c4 square, is that a problem? Probably not. Black's okay here. But instead, okay, he played actually bishop takes a3 in this position. After rook takes a3, now he played knight c5. So bishop c4, points menacingly at f7, and you would have thought, you know, in hands of a 27-3-2, even if this is like a blitz playoff game, that in this position there's a tactic which, if you're given on chess tempo, you might see. Knight takes, b takes. If I give you 10 seconds, and that's a little clue, can you see that there's a tactic for white here? So I'll give you 10 seconds starting from now. I'll just turn off that Houdini. 10 seconds now. Okay, I've given you a big clue that there's something in the position. You know, maybe white's feeling guilty that the rook's on a bad square, and he's not looking for tactics necessarily. He is looking at the f7 square apparently, and maybe, you know, he's thinking f6 is going to be dangerous as well. Gata. So his next move was queen h5, which seems fine, doesn't it? g6 is actually ruled out because you just take and then queen takes g6 because of the pin. But he had something stronger. Same theme, the f7 pawn, just bishop takes f7 check. And so black obviously can't move the king because he loses the exchange, and if he takes, then check. Now the best move here for black, instead of like losing c5 and the pawn, but actually he's played bishop d5, clever little move. But even so, this isn't brilliant. E takes d5, knight e4, check, queen d5. White ends up being significantly better here, but it is more technical than maybe some people might assume. This continuation, it's fairly technical. It's getting that blockade now, and with that pawn on d6, you know, white has the advantage in theory. And it's probably quite difficult for black now to play this position. But so that bishop c4 in this continuation, it seems that's potentially a shame. You know, maybe, just maybe, Gata was kicking himself after the game. Well, if he's shown this with engines, obviously he'll be kicking himself. But queen h5 does look like an attacking move, to be fair. And there's still the option of f6, which seems pretty dangerous as well. So queen c7, and now bishop d5, and now it becomes clear actually after bishop d5 though that there's some problems here. Why isn't f6 working? It's because of this knight e4. f6, I believe it's because of knight e4 anyway. That's what I mentioned last night about checking. And in fact it is knight e4. The knight's stopping any nasties with queen g5, and if queen g4, then just knight takes f6. And if fg, then this starts to get nasty for white. Actually, just loses the bishop. So knight e4 is pretty good as a defensive move here. In fact, in this position, you know, this was actually a very, very good reply. This queen c7, because say black had played queen d7, white would still be doing fine. C takes is dangerous. Say e takes, then rook h3 actually, look at this, and the queen and rook, and maybe this is part of Gata's idea. So how comes this didn't work here, you might wonder, after queen c7? Why wouldn't c takes d work with that idea of swinging the rook, actually? Again, well, if ed, of course black's going to be in trouble, rook h3, and he's in big trouble. You know, h6, bishop takes d4, he's getting hacked. You know, bishop takes g7, doesn't, you know, it's murder even after knight e4. But in this position, after queen d7, c takes d4, black can hold on with knight takes e4 apparently. Now let's have a look. Rook h3, and now there'll be knight f6 hitting the queen and defending h7, and that gives black an opportunity now to get back to that position. No, to draw then? No, it seems to be a draw. If it's getting back to the position with the option of h6, doesn't look that appealing. But black can just play knight f6 with a draw. Or if white plays for a win, I don't know, h6 seems as though it's dangerous. Bishop e3. You know, things are pointing at black's king here, and you know, this is one of the, it looks kind of scary, but what happened in the game, it all seems to be extinguished after this queen c7. I don't know, fear was brought in to white. He didn't want to lose e4 with this, you know, knight harassing the queen maybe, but it's going down now, the white position, after knight e4. Because also there's possibilities now of queen c4 and knight takes f2. If the rook's like taken off protecting f2, it's gone pear-shaped already. Like queen c4, and there's no time. You know, the poor rook. All of those possibilities gone like a distant dream. So queen takes d5. Now d3, and black's clearly better. And it's nice actually how he plays this position now. So these pawns in the centre, they need to be liberated somehow, or do they? It seems actually Boris is able to just win this position quite comfortably. He picks up c5 here, and then f5. Now, could white, you know, have held on to c5? This is restraint as well against g3. So, you know, restraint. If he's not liberating his own pawns, he's restraining white's. So it's all about pawn structure. The pawns are the soul of chess. But why did white actually want to play bishop takes a5 here? I guess if he doesn't do anything, maybe there's, you know, rook d5 anyway, picking up f5. So it's miserable. And also, you know, rook c6 to blockade, and then rook d5, and if rook f1 e3. Once these pawns get going, that'll be it for white. So white's got a miserable position here in this rook and pawn ending, and you know, g2's now under fire. But this was a blitz game, you know, it wasn't like optimal for either side. And now the king and pawn ending is just one for black. So many pawns. This pawn's not going anywhere, and the king's stepping in just in time. So the Sicilian defence was the key to Boris's victory. A bit shaky at one moment in the game. Let's have another look at the game, and remember to check out and please become a fan of facebook.com/Sicilian Defence. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited by that page. It's actually the only opening page I'm excited by at the moment, in terms of you know, people have taken it into their hearts. It seems there's a lot of activity already. But I'm hoping my other opening pages do well as well, especially like the French defence in the future. But at the moment, yeah, this is a key Sicilian defence, very high profile game. I hope I haven't missed out any big things here, apart from this, you know, this bishop f7. Yeah, with queen c4. It looks like you know, the intention of the rook being here was to probably, you know, it was to swing it across. So white's planned intention wasn't to do with like winning the knight on c5, because that was actually in black's, you know, activity, getting a knight to c5. You know, white was following his plan. He's not following the total details of the position. He was following his plan with this queen h5. So we can't be too hard on Gata here, can we? No GMs are like computers, just looking at the position without any bias. You know, we're not computers, yeah. And so queen c7. was actually, it turns out to be an excellent move. I guess intuitively, Boris was thinking, pressure on C4, access to C4, as well as, keeping up the pressure on E4, as well as defending F7, obviously. And so that turns out very useful here. He's got access to the C4 square. He makes use of that. And this endgame, he's winning now. He's riding it home to victory, this endgame. And, this making sure that this F5 is a problem, actually, in the endgame. It's going to be a problem. He makes sure white doesn't have the defensive resource G4. So the restraint's actually quite functional, actually, to win a pawn here. And once he wins, the F5 pawn, it's all going downhill for white here. Okay, so Gelfand through to play Grischuk, I believe. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.